I'll admit it, video games are hard, and I don't always have the time to, get good. I'm a busy man. I have things to do, like work, or walk my dog, or make a video about video games that I don't have time to get good at. Sure, there are easy games out there, but my vast backlog doesn't just include popular linear FPS titles. They include dense RPGs, strange avant-garde games, and whatever the fuck System Shock 1 is. No. Seriously, what is System Shock 1? Because there's so many little elements, I don't have time to play that game. I don't have time to, I'm just gonna skip that one. I'm just gonna skip that one and go straight to System Shock 2. Fight me. Anyway, what's a simpleton like myself to do? Do I give up and never touch these games? Nah, mama didn't raise no quitter. Do I watch a walkthrough on YouTube? No. The only thing my dad taught me to cheat was death. Yes, my father's Nicolas Cage from Ghost Rider, and no, you may not have an autograph. When a game is too intimidating for me to boot up, I reach for a strategy guide, which is not cheating. Just hold on, give me a few minutes, and I'll explain myself. I promise. Just hang in there. Yeah, these bad boys were all the rage back in the Wild West of video games. As a kid, I would read guides for games that I didn't even have. Not because I didn't have any friends or that I spent most of my time in the library. No, that's what nerds did. I was a really cool hip kid. I didn't get shaken down for lunch money. That wasn't me. I promise. I'm a cool kid. I'm so cool. I'm some cool kid. Anyway, weird childhood antics aside, this was how I hyped myself up for some games. I remember looking through the bully guide and seeing that you could skateboard and beat up mean kids and kiss girls. This game let you do all the exciting things that kids my age thought were illegal. My little heart couldn't handle this much excitement. Sometimes, though, I would actually own the games that I had the strategy guide for. I know, weird, right? I can recall a time that I would casually read through my Pokemon Sapphire guide for fun, mostly because I was grounded, but acutely aware of many things that I would never have discovered without it. Things like actually understanding the story of the game, or how beauty contests work, or where to find Pokemon, and most importantly, how the fucking Braille puzzles work. I had to learn Braille to play Pokemon Sapphire. Now, I'd love to show you just how damaged this book is because of its overuse by me, but it's either been stolen by my sibling or fallen into such great disrepair that my parents threw it away. My money's on the former because twice before my sibling has deleted my Pokemon Sapphire save after putting around 200 hours into it, so, yeah, a little bitter. Physical strategy guides serve a few purposes. First, they act as a constant reference, something that you can pick up and then set on your lap while you're playing, instead of searching up a 240p video that some kid filmed with his mom's camcorder. Second, they're your guide to the story, which is really helpful in games where the story is, well, a little bit dense. Sure, you can pay attention, but there's plenty of things you're gonna miss. Take, for example, the Elder Scrolls series. There could be a library dedicated to the lore of those games, and sometimes they might reference something in a previous game that you forgot. But having a phone book-sized guide to help or remind you about all of that is really nice. Third, they're your point of contact for approaching games that you're less than ready for, or ones that are more avant-garde. Shoot, I'm too scared to boot up Killer 7. That game's more weird than Evan's extensive anime body pillow collection. But ever since I found the guide, I can play the game with training wheels on, allowing me to persevere when the going gets gruesome and overwhelming. Fourth, if you're a game design nerd like I am, they act as reverse engineering documents. This allows you to see how the game designers built the levels for the player. It's sort of a director's commentary on the extras DVD menu. However, with guides you sort of have to decipher those things for yourself. A lot of this is obviously drenched in my nostalgia for a time where the only gaming experiences I got were a Game Boy Advance, an Atari 2600, and the rare times my dad would let me use the computer. So please, step with me into my time machine as we adventure back to the peak of relevance for strategy guides. More specifically, the 2000s era of the PS2, Xbox, and GameCube. A gleeful time where the internet was a luxury, extreme sports stars were gods, and pants were baggy enough to hide shotguns in them. I can't say I miss those days, but what I can say is that I wish I dove deeper into video games back then. Those formative years are wondrous times of going headfirst into creative new worlds, and those creative new worlds start to impact you. I can remember a time intensely marathoning Star Wars while playing Legos on the ground at night. But I wish I was one of those older, lucky kids who had a small CRT TV in their room with an Xbox and playing Halo or Fable or GTA. Obviously, I was too young for those games at the time, but I feel like I would have gotten a lot more out of those titles than I do now. But if I could have curled up with a strategy guide as a young kid, maybe the world of Albion might have captivated me enough to ignore the simple yet mismatched art style. A guidebook is more than just something to read while playing. It's a chance to catch up on lore. It's mapping out your next side quest saying, well, I think I can do just one more. It's understanding all the intricacies that the cheeses of Albion have to offer. Really, it's getting excited about the world in general, which is why I bought a strategy guide for my first playthrough of Fable 1. The first Fable game took me quite a while to get excited about, but 3 or 4 hours in, I decided to actually pick up the guide, and that's when the adventure went from, I want to beat this for backlog's sake, to, holy hell, I want to get this a legendary weapon even though I have no need for it because I've already got the max level weapon and beat the game, and the boss is not actually all that hard, but that's a story for another day. A quick yet important distinction. One thing that I'm not talking about here are those cheap cheat code books that you could get at the Scholastic Book Fair for like $16. The ones that your family would constantly buy because they didn't know exactly what game you wanted, so they just end up giving you 10 of these cheat code guides. Before we collectively hold our hands and sing Kumbaya around the flaming stack of these books, let's thank the internet for killing them off. If we were to let cheat code guides go on any longer, the books would get thicker than a Tolstoy novel. Besides, who needs a book of cheats when every copy of San Andreas ever released came with handwritten notes to remind you that the only cheat you ever needed was triangle up, up, left, right, square, circle, down? If you don't get this joke, please pull out your PS2 and test it out. I promise, this joke is very funny. Speaking of that rat bastard, the internet, let's talk about why I don't think Google killed strategy guides. Sure, it financially killed them and now are seldom made thanks to the internet, but there are some things that GameFAQs and IGN walkthroughs just don't have. Sure, they've got some dope acai art, whatever that punctuation art style is. Yeah, they've got that in spades, but they don't have the same kind of style. The passion is there for sure, but that same passionate player isn't considering things like page layout or neat and clean visuals that help you find things without actually holding your hand. We have to remember that this is a guidebook, not an answer book. It enhances the experience so that when you figure out whatever was in your way thanks to the book, you return to the adventure with the same excitement and not just the feeling of, whatever. In preparation for this episode, I asked myself a simple question that had never crossed my mind. How are strategy guides made? I mean, I just assumed that the developers sent out all the information to paying companies, but that notion is rather backwards. Why would you make a game and then give all the answers away? Not to mention the devs would have to restrict what information they send out because they don't want to give everything away, at which point the developer might as well just make their own guide. This means that independent companies would have to take on the burden of writing these guides on their own. Well, most people know the big three publishers, that being Nintendo Power, Bradley, and the recently deceased but not forgotten, Prima Games. Now, these aren't the only guide makers, but they do have the most trustworthy track record. Some of the unofficial or unlicensed guides might get close but don't have the same standards to adhere to. Most of these indie authors look at the hottest game and throw together a bunch of tips and garbage that young children might know and publish a book. This is where you get the sort of Target bargain bin section of strategy guides, the top 10 strats to get that victory royale in Fortnite, or Noob's Guide to Minecraft, or my favorite and constantly being outmoded, Pokemon Go Trainer's Handbook. Back to how the big boys do it. While these authors do get advanced copies, they still have tight deadlines to meet before the game actually comes out for public release. Keep in mind that these authors have to find all the endings, take all the quests, meet and learn every single character's backstory, map out the location, find all the collectibles, paraphrase the lore and backstory, and 100% the game. For example, let's just look at the Skyrim guide. Someone had to go through every dungeon, talk to every character, and freaking run into all the random events. I would rather rewrite the phone book by hand than do that, and I like Skyrim. In addition to gathering this data, they have to find creative ways to condense this information in order to meet a word count or page layout and chapter restrictions. This isn't to say that these aren't all without errors or source mistakes or even lack of instruction for bettering one's play, but like, shit, y'all, can we take a second to appreciate the level of hard work and dedication that these folks put through? I like to think that here at 1117, we put a lot of hours into researching, writing, and producing our work, but our hard work isn't even 1% of these brave writers and what they do. I tip my hat to these folks. I don't think that strategy guides will ever completely go extinct. Companies will always find a way to milk every penny out of a game, so what we'll end up with is hardback collector's editions, which is really the best way to keep them afloat. Folks like me will ultimately want them because we're collectors at heart. Some of my favorite games, I'm always on the lookout for their guides. I would love a hard copy of the collector's edition for BioShock Infinite or The Last of Us. Not that I need the guides because I can beat them with my eyes closed. I want them because I love these games and I want to dive further into them. I want to pick up the details I missed. I want to see how the developer laid out everything to tell a certain story. I want to learn about these games because I care about them. It's like I said earlier, these are like developers' commentary for film. The dev is showing you where the incentives are and why they put them there to push you forward. Then when you replay the game, you start to pick up on things like set design or lighting cues that lead you down the right path. While I know that some games do actually have developer commentary, most games don't. And for the folks like us who really want to immerse ourselves in this art, this is the best way for us to do so. Right next to actually talking to the creators, but goodness, we're too small for that. So if you're a game developer, talk to us. To summarize this rant, strategy guides are a wonderful way to help skittish players navigate intimidating games. They're well-organized references as well as fun reading material, and they're a great insight into game design.
And now for something completely different.
If you will please join me in the public shaming of my own flesh and blood, I have been waiting many a moon to exact my revenge for my poor Pokemon Sapphire data. Please point fingers and jeer along as we ridicule my sibling for their misdoings.
To the guillotine! Oh, deleted save file! Penitentiary. Hey guys, I just want to be here for the mob.